Good morning. Today I would like to talk about four of our favorite books of the Bible, the Gospels. The Gospels are Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. The first three, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, are called the Synoptic Gospels. Synoptic means seeing all together, or simply put, these three Gospels hold many similarities. The Synoptic Gospels only hold 10% of the same information as John, but we'll get back to that later. First, let's focus on how and when these books were written. Many Gospels were written outside of the four we are familiar with, but were not chosen to be in the Bible for a variety of reasons. Some of these deciding factors were how quickly the books were written after Jesus' ascension, and who wrote it. The four canon Gospels, so the four Gospels that are in the Bible, were written by first and second generation disciples. This means that they were either taught by Jesus or a person those people taught. All four Gospels were written before 70 AD, which at most was 40 years after Jesus' crucifixion. We know this to be true because the second destruction of the temple in Jerusalem was not recorded in any of the Gospels. Jesus prophesied this destruction in Mark 13 and Luke 21. The actual destruction would only aid in the discussion of Jesus as God. Further evidence that supports this is Acts was written by Luke after he wrote the Gospel. Acts does not include the destruction of the temple, the persecution of Christians in 64 AD, nor does it document the deaths of James, Paul, or Peter that occurred between 62 and 65 AD. It is believed that Mark was the first Gospel to be written. Mark was a disciple of Peter and would have learned about the life, death, burial, and resurrection from him. Historians believe that Matthew, the original tax collector turned disciple, used Mark as a guide to write his gospel. Matthew added details that he remembered when he read through Mark as he was writing. Luke worked with Paul. Although Paul was not an eyewitness of Jesus, he spent time with the disciples that Luke would have been around for. Luke would have learned from other eyewitnesses as well. John, the disciple whom Jesus loved, focused on different attributes, sermons, and actions of Jesus, and is believed to be the last written gospel. Let's start with how all four gospels are the same. It's important that we focus on similarities and not differences, because it's not that John is this wildly different story than the other ones are. It just emphasizes differently than the other three gospels. First, they all have the same general story. John the Baptist prepared the way for the Messiah. John the Baptist announces that Messiah is Jesus, and Jesus teaches, he performs miracles, is arrested, crucified, died, and is resurrected. Many of the stories are the same. The miracle feeding over 5,000 people, walking on water, and many others. Furthermore, some sayings overlap. There are many differences, or else there would not need to be the term Synoptic Gospels. And the Synoptic Gospels term only refers to 3/4 of the Gospels. No Gospel contradicts another. Simply each Gospel was written with a different emphasis by a different author, as I discussed right before the similarities. Some of these differences I'm going to discuss now. John focused much on the deity of Jesus. He seems to say, "This God became Jesus," while the other Gospels were focused more on proving that this Jesus is God. The Synoptic Gospels do not lessen the deity of Jesus, they simply speak on the topic from a different angle, such as Matthew shows Jesus is Israel's king, Mark as servant, and Luke as perfect man. The Synoptics work from the earth up, while John works from the heaven down. For example, John does not begin with a lineage or the birth story like the other three. He begins with, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. He was in the beginning with God," and so on, verses 1 through 4. John focuses more on the theological aspect of Jesus' teaching, with long sermons and miracles, while the others use parables and exorcisms. The Synoptics have 33 parables, while John has 2. John used unique stories that the others did not. He is the only Gospel to include Lazarus being raised from the dead, the washing of the disciples' feet, the turning of water into wine, the dialogue with Nicodemus about being born again, and several more examples. Furthermore, John used the Jewish calendar in writing his gospel. Because of that, we know that the ministry of Jesus was 3 years. With the information in the other three, the ministry could have been only months long. Although John's gospel varies widely from the Synoptic Gospels, we get a fuller picture of who Jesus is and what his life on earth looked like. Without it, we would have less understanding of Jesus. From this, we know that the Gospels were written in a timely manner by first and second generation disciples and are reliable. We also know that while there are differences between the Gospels, they all complement each other and further our modern understanding of Jesus. Thank you.